Hello friends, today we will see the reference queries, reference service and how reference queries can be solved in different libraries. So, keeping that in mind, I have prepared this presentation where the outline will be what is reference service, why reference service is necessary, who are user of this service, features of reference service, how efficiently this reference service can be provided, what are the different types of reference service, and I will also share with you with some examples of reference service. Now, whenever anybody reaches to library, any user reaches to library, they have some query in mind. Now, these queries are normally categorized under 4 specific categories. One is the everyday approach, where they come and ask librarians whether you have this book, whether we are subscribing to this journal and that kind of thing. Now, second is your comprehensive or exhaustive approach, where a researcher basically approaching you and asking you how to find on information on very specific category, and for that probably you are you have to search a hell lot of books, journals, some reference sources and find out how exactly that would be useful. Third in the category is currency approach. Now, what is currency approach? Currency approach means academicians normally want to be updated so that they can, or maybe even business professionals also. So, they want to remain updated on the market dynamics, what is happening in the market there, so that they can take up decisions. Academicians on the other way, so they remain updated so that they can give students better lecture, better knowledge sharing is happening. So, that is basically currency or the catching up approach. Catching up approach is again different. Earlier I used to study on this particular thing. However, during last 3-4 years I have stopped studying this aspect and now again I am studying it. So, basically I have to catch up what has happened in the past 4 years. So, these are 4 specific areas where people come and approach you for different type of information. So, keeping this in mind, our reference services are also developed, resources are also procured and they are managed accordingly. Now, let us see what is reference service. Reference service of a library is a public service for users where professional librarians provide library users with direction to library materials, advice on library collections and services and use their expertise on multiple kinds of information retrieval from multiple sources. So, basically what you have find here, that reference service means that you are doing some service for the users, you are searching different information sources and you are trying to locate or consolidate different type of information up to the satisfactory level of the users. Now, this could be very short period of time. So, then we call it short range. If it is a longer range of time you have to invest your time, that is a long range information, long range reference service. Now, in ALA we have recently seen that 80% of Americans say borrowing books is a very important service, and similarly 80% also say that reference librarians are a very important service for libraries. Now, reference librarians provide reference services. They might show you where the books are, where what books you should refer, maybe advisory kind of role they also play. So, it shows that whosoever is visiting your library, out of them if 80% prefer this service. So, there is a absolute need of librarians to interact more with your visiting users, or maybe if the users are remotely sitting and asking through telephone or something else. So, you have to satisfy their demand. So, that is precisely enhance your value of libraries, enhance your position, your value within the organizations as well as within the library as also. Now, it connects users with documents and information sources. So, this is most important, that reference sources connects users with the document, because you are taking a user to the information sources and telling him that look, this is the source you should consult, or these are the sources, these are the journals you should refer to get your query, or these are the statistical sources you should refer to get your information. So, this way basically you are doing hand holding of your users. Now, it could be only responsive in nature. Anticipatory reference service are normally very few when you are thinking in terms of current awareness service, when nobody is basically approached you directly for any kind of reference, rather you are providing it on your anticipation that he might require this service. Of course, this is a different kind of service, but mostly we have seen that reference service what we are providing are of responsive in nature. Definitely there are services which are providing on the basis of anticipation as well. Now, why reference service is necessary? So, there are many things is happening, because we know that rate of information is growing at the rate of it is doubling almost in every year or every 2-3 years time. It is a very short span, which basically information is it is a very difficult for a person to get hold of all those informations. Further to this, these informations are scattered everywhere. It is very difficult for a person to get access to all information. Nobody in the earth can have access to all the databases. So, their library has to consider taking access of some databases, and they have to provide or they have to satisfy their user demand from those things only. So, for that what you need to do, you have to refer to other libraries. So, their resource sharing comes in place. So, it means that there are enormous scope of reference service where you need to access different kind of information. Interdisciplinary nature of subject is another issue, because interdisciplinary subjects are there, information overloads, it should not be there, so that people get only those much of information which they require, because whenever they are searching Google, we get normally few lakhs of records, and from there getting a piece of information is a very difficult task. However, librarians when provide a handful of information pages in reports, or maybe a bibliography of resources, so it becomes a very authentic tool for a person. Different document types are there. Your library do not subscribe to standards or patents. Now, you have a query that what is going to be the new government rule for GHG emission for cars. Now, you are not going to get those informations, you have to refer to some of the sources from some other libraries, or if it is available in online media, then you can go and search and give this information to the user who was looking for. This is how basically information overload is not happening, as well as you are becoming specialized and helping users to get their information out of a scattered sources of information. Current knowledge in the subject and allied areas are also useful. It is vital for researchers, academics, professionals, because it reduces their time. Why? Because if a person wants to search on himself or maybe through Google, you can see that this guy is ending up searching a hell lot of document and finding out maybe thousands of useful resources, and out of them maybe 50 are important, and 50 resources going through those 50 resources is a tough task for a person. So, it is of course a very tedious job for a academician or researcher or student to locate a specific piece of information which is asking for. So, a trained reference librarian will be very helpful in this purpose. So, that is why searching time gets reduced, continuous knowledge development also takes place. Enhance value of library, because when and increase use of library resources. Now, these two are basically side by side, these are basically helpful for when you are providing information or solving information queries. Basically, that shows that your library has lot of resources, your library has lot of good quality library staff who are knowledgeable and they can be helpful for users. So, that is how you are creating value for your libraries as well. User profile, if you see that researcher, academician, students, business professional, consultant, policy makers, everybody needs information or reference information. Features, if you see that it provide assistance to users, organizing collections and services to ensure their maximum usage, saving precious time and acquiring and maintaining appropriate reference collection. Now, here what we are mentioning that based on user's query only we develop our collection. No library in this world develop their collection unilaterally without involving users. So, here basically user tell you some queries, you find within your library available resources, you find that these type of queries are coming quite often. However, we do not have that resources available. So, you go and procure that. So, how? So, that basically help you to assess user need and develop your library collection based on user need. So, this is how reference sources or reference service help your reference queries help you to develop your library service. Efficiency of reference service depends on its planning. Now, as I was telling you that librarians are looking for those kind of queries which will be quite valuable and will be able to their staff will be able to help users consistently for a longer period of time. So, they will be plan accordingly, depute staff members, depute resources, invest some money in it and infrastructure also, then plan accordingly that how this will be developed and how this will be given to somebody and how they are going to be consolidated, in which format they will be given to somebody, and whether we will take or rather which way we will take users feedback, so that we can benefit further for library resource collection, for service development or for service modification as well. So, this is how efficiency of reference service actually all about. So, answering reference queries, how fast you can answer, providing readers advisory service, like you should go for this kind of resources, you are not likely to get this information in following resources. So, this, or rather for example, if a person approach you to get a information on what is the agricultural output of India. So, now in the last maybe 5 years. So, most likely you are going to get it in the economic survey under the agricultural section or in the yearbook where you will find it. Now, a person if he started any book, reading any book, or maybe looking for journal articles for getting this information, or maybe some other resources. So, that will be a wastage of time. So, as a trained library professional, it is important to understand the nature of queries and accordingly help the user for their information quest. So, this is how reference service will be helpful, as well as users will be benefited as well. Now, information literacy is very important to enhance efficiency of information your reference service, because information literacy means you are literating your own users. See, if you need such kind of information, you will go and find out these resources. If you do not do this, so every time that resources will be required or such query comes, so they will be dependent on you. So, that will basically creating a user who is not information literate that way, neither that will improve your time management in terms of your library staff's time management purpose. So, both the thing will be possible if you literate a person through regular training, regular method of orientations, and maybe creating a guide which reference will be found where that kind of information sources. Or let us take a very easy example. A person comes and he want to search your website, search your maybe databases in your library. So, if that is the case, so when a person approach, so if there is a specific board given that this databases are available in the in such and such places, you have to probably enter such keywords and all those things. So, this is how you are making people information literate. So, he is not going to ask librarian every time how to use this database. Now, creating reference finding tools through OPAC, promoting reference services, evaluating reference services, I just discussed you. There are several types of reference queries comes, which are directional queries, like people ask you where I will find this book, or where I will find a place where I can find all the databases, or where I can find such CDs. So, that type of queries when it comes. Procedural queries, people are asking you, do you issue more than 10 books for me, for any individual? Do you issue books to non-library members? That way. Basic reference queries, like very easy fact finding questions, if anybody is asking, like a student might ask you, like how should I find, or where should I search to find more information about on such particular topic. So, maybe that topic could be of general, or maybe it could be a directory type of information people are asking. So, like what is the location of such and such place. So, I want to go to maybe IARI library, how do I go, how should I go. So, that are very basic type of reference queries. Research queries are told you that is very technical, and those are might require longer as well as shorter time based on the nature of queries. Bibliography verification is basically when a person you are given you some bibliography and ask you to study that bibliography, and probably you can cross check whether this bibliography is correct or not, or maybe you are basically updating that bibliography based on somebody's requirement. So, that is your bibliographic verification. And reference queries, information sources, these are quite well located. Now, OCLC has conducted a study where we have found that ready reference and procedural queries, these are coming most in the libraries. Similarly, earlier it used to be subject related search people used to do, now ready reference and procedural queries are coming more and more. Similarly, if you see that user behavior is changing a lot also, study or coursework people are using library most, means people are taking more and more help from library staffs, and personal laptop use are going on increasing, because they are searching more on the internet or doing their study based on their own resources. So, these are the user behaviors are changing, which clearly shows that research type in the academic institution, research purpose or very specialized queries people are coming only after going through Google or other reference sources, which are already people are well trained because they are information literate. So, this is how one can reduce their manpower and can streamline the purpose. Different types of reference sources are there, like referral service, where you are referring to a person either to some other institute or within your library some other places that you are referring to. Reference service could be ready reference, could be short range or could be long range, as I was telling earlier. Now, ready reference queries could be location specific and that could be answered immediately, could be time dependent, like how long your library will remain open, could be very general queries, when I have to return this book, and or rather when I will get this book, because if somebody has issued it, so you are just trying to reserving that book. Staff can tell verbally and even show that it is written. The staff may consult any reference books, yearbook, handbook, directories, any kind of other reference sources to solve these ready reference queries. Short range reference queries like any statistical data of or environment and forest on India people are asking for. So, you can tell them, look, you have to go to forest survey of India. So, that is a document. So, where you can find all the data related to forest resources or as well as you can go to Ministry of Environment sites, you see their annual report, you will find what kind of forest reserves are there, how much forest lands are now increased or enhanced, anything. Similarly, you can solve any queries very very easily, not requiring much much information search, or could be very short time it takes. So, that we consider as short range reference services. In the long range section, there you have to really somebody ask you that, see, I want to see what is the biogas development in India in recent years. Now, there you have to search several queries, several documents and several types of sources. So, you have to visit website, you have to visit different like MNRE's website, you have to visit rural development websites, you have to see agricultural ministry's website. Similarly, different types of government documents and reports you have to study. You have to study different periodicals, magazine articles, newsletters, and then you can probably form a report, or maybe you want to develop a bibliography. So, then only it is possible for you to develop such bibliography. Now, that requires some time. It could be 2-3 days, could be 1 week, could be even 2 weeks. So, these we are calling as long range reference service. Now, modes of providing reference service are face to face or could be through telephone, could be virtual. So, this is some examples of how people are interacting with library professionals. Now, there a guy is giving short range answer over telephone, and it is a virtual platform of Delhi University Library System, where they have a reference desk. Even in TERI, we have internalized our reference queries through a virtual info desk system, where any researcher of ours can ask us with the librarians to get hold of any kind of information sources. Now, this is important whenever you want to solve any reference queries. So, what is going to be your steps you have to follow? Now, whenever a user approach you, they have certain needs. Now, you have to find out what are their needs in detail. So, that is why you have to do user interview. User interview, if you are doing it very correctly and consistently asking all details information, so your job is done, because then only you can plan your service totally. Understanding subject is a very important thing, because unless you understand the nature of the query along with the subject requirement, you cannot identify resources where to search. So, that is why it is very important. Source identification is the next part, then search information sources and selection of information. Once you search information sources, you might get more number of documents. So, basically that will give you a less number of information, rather information overload will happen. So, selection of information sources is very important once you get the search output. Presenting the information in a very specialized form, so that a person who is getting that information feel like yes somebody has put some effort for me. Now, formatting and packaging of information, delivery of information services are other types of information services, and feedback from users and modification is important. Now, these are few examples, like you are asking for a book, you look for a bibliograph sources, and Indian National Bibliography or books in print will give you the information. Like you are looking for a details of a particular course, you go for a handbooks, and universities handbooks will be the best source. Similarly, current events in India, you search for some news digest. So, these are different type of information queries which you can look for your own information sources. Now, source identification, like if a query is there, Indian biogas development after the year 2000. So, biomass and bioenergy or Indian foresters are the journal where you should look. Then statistical sources like infraline database or MNRE databases you should look. Searching is one important component where you are basically clubbing three things using Boolean operator. Here Indian sources, biogas and published under 2000. So, after 2000. So, these three sources are linked, and in the intersection of that you are getting from your search result. So, that reduces your information overload. So, service delivery mode could be different way, printed or email based service or listserv, blogs, online chat, mobile messages. So, there are several things. Now, planning a reference sources, acquiring and organizing information accordingly is so important. Therefore, it is responsible for increasing the use of library sources, and provision of reference service should be promoted among the users, because that enhance the value of your library. These services should also be evaluated, because when you are giving services and you are getting feedback of researchers or your users that this information service I really liked. So, that gives you satisfaction, as well as it means that your services are good. However, on the other side, if you see that if you are not taking a feedback, you are unaware whether this service is at all satisfying his needs or not. So, friends, today what we have learnt here, that how exactly reference source help us in different information query management, what steps we should follow, what are the different type of sources we should follow for getting those informations, and what are the approach, how we should plan our information search or information service accordingly, and ultimately we will try to find out how exactly users are getting benefited from these reference sources or through different evaluation methods. Thank you.